Welcome back to the devlog for what I'm currently calling Mech Mercenary or Mech Mercenary, something like that. But where have I been? So what I've been doing is learning how to make pixel art and 3D modeling. This game is going to require assets, a little more complicated than the just little square blocks that my Tetris game did. So, time to up my game a little bit. Now, since I am definitely not an artist, the best I can do, and with it still looking somewhat interesting and stylized, is maybe some pixel art with a low poly 3D model. So what I decided to do, and what this video is about, is my workflow for that. So originally, what I first tried was to create a 3D model and then make a pixel art mesh or a pixel art texture to go around it. And what I learned was that this small scale of texture, all of your little tiny stretches and anything that is slightly off in your mesh is actually extremely visible. So I had to scrap that and what I decided, and what seems to be working the best, is if you take your pixel art ratios of like right here I'm doing 3:1 angle, and then here it's like a 1:1. So if you choose a scale and stick to it and respect those ratios with your mesh, then all of your textures will come out looking proper on the actual mesh itself. So the first thing I did was I created, these are supposed to be like armor, my first attempt anyway. And so the first thing I did was just created like a cube, and I should probably turn on material preview, and wrapped my armor around it. And at first it looked extremely blurry. So if I go over to actually no, UV editing's fine. Yeah, so if I go to the material properties tab over here, I think it starts out as linear. Focus on this. And then as you can see, everything is all like blurry and looks like crap. It doesn't go right up to the edge for some reason, even though if I hit, you can see I have everything pixel perfect, but it's still showing green in between at the edges. So it's just a mess. So I did some Google foo, and I learned that if you set it to closest, it will respect your low res textures. But that brought up another issue, is that when you import into Unreal, everything is, well, actually I'll get to that in a moment. I want to show you the full process here. So back to what I was saying, you have to respect the pixel art ratios with your meshes. So it's easy when you're looking at like a 1x1x1 block, but things get a little more complicated when you try to make something like a cockpit. Oh, gotta get out of edit mode. Now, when I first tried making this thing, I didn't have snapping on, and I just had, let's go to edge. So I was just kind of like eyeballing things. Isn't move working? Oh yeah, oh, snapping is on. Yeah, so let's turn off snapping. So as you stretch things, it gets like really noticeable if it doesn't match your pixel art exactly. So it's hard to like see the way it is right now. But essentially, if things were just off by a little bit, you'd get little weird shit like that, and it just didn't work out. So, instead of making the mesh first and then doing pixel art to wrap around it, what I started doing was drawing the pixel art first and then creating a mesh for it. And since I'm working in this low poly style, it's actually pretty quick. It's a nice little workflow for a single dev that needs to create lots of assets. The block was first, and then I did this cockpit next, and then, well, they're right on top of each other because they export easier that way. And then this one is going to be like a different type of cockpit that's more inset into the actual, I don't know, torso or whatever of the mech. And then even though these sides, or at least the bottom, is most likely not going to be visible when I add this into a larger face mesh, I'm probably going to delete these phases. I still wanted to see what it looked like with some of the armor tiles on it. And right now, I like the way that it's turning out. Eventually, I think I'm going to move like the glass out into its own file so that I can create like a mask or something and make the glass like more reflective, and then put like a mask over the armor as well so that maybe the user can change the colors of it, that kind of thing. It's all stuff I need to experiment with, but I know mostly how to do all that stuff in Unreal. And let's not forget to turn snapping back on because I'm going to get back into creating models and it's going to be a mess. All right, so the next thing that I learned in my little dry run of my workflow here is, so if you want to export something into Unreal, I had to go to, I highlight it and then I go to File, Export, and FBX. Now, so Cockpit 1 is the one that I've highlighted. And so I'm limiting to the selected objects. I needed to check this. And then in Unreal, I have Unreal is an X forward and Z up, whereas Blender is I think Y is forward, if I remember correctly. So I had to make sure that these matched and apply the unit. Now, if you have this checked, it will export with your origins in the correct place. But if you have this unchecked, it will export in relative to the origin. At least that's what it seemed to be doing in my testing. But if you have this checked, it messes up this stuff. It won't copy that information over, and then that's all messed up in Unreal. So I just have to make sure that everything has its origin on the world origin before I export it, and then everything comes out properly with this unchecked. So I export it, and then hop over to Unreal. I already imported Cockpit 2, but Cockpit 1, drag and drop this out of the way. Okay, I have unchecked generate missing collision. I'll probably just do that. Like, since these aren't going to be like in-game assets, these are going to be part of larger meshes that I build in Blender and then export it all at once. Although things like arms and legs and torsos and stuff, they are going to be modular in this game. But this little cockpit, it's not going to be something that's like editable or anything. I also haven't decided if I'm going to use nanite or not. I don't know that it would really be necessary or that I'd get much benefit with such a low poly style. But it seems like Epic kind of like recommends this. So I don't know. Maybe I'll see some performance gains once I start messing around in here. But otherwise, I think I just left everything at the default because I edited everything in Blender so that it would come out correctly in Unreal. All right, so imports all. Now, here's Cockpit 1. Let's zero this out. Focus on it. Oh, yeah. Right click, not middle mouse if you're in Unreal. Now, in Unreal, it remembers mostly everything. It looks like I messed up my texture a little bit there. It looks like it remembered almost everything, but there are certain things that you kind of have to like rebuild. Now, the only reason my texture came out properly is because I had already edited it for the other cockpit that I was testing, this one here. If you don't do anything and you just import everything, it will not carry over this closest shader. And in Unreal, what I found is so yeah, it's defaulted to world, which is blurry as hell at this low. And then the compression messes up the colors. So this is stuff that I just figured out through playing around, because I figured I needed some kind of like not filtered. But as I scrolled through, my eyes went to this 2D pixels unfiltered, and yeah, sure enough, it fixed it up. But the coloring was still off. And I figured that had to do with compression settings. Where is it? Yeah, vector displacement map. There we go. And so when I set all that up, it fixed everything. And then over here, after I saved, it was all fixed up. So that's what it's going to look like in Unreal. I am going to have to play with the textures more to get the glass to be shiny and that kind of stuff. But that's my whole workflow. That's what I'm going to do to create my mechs and my tanks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure what my next video is going to be on. Most likely, it's just going to be a lot of time lapses of me creating assets, because it's going to be a while before I have enough assets, or maybe not. I mean, but I want to test the mech itself animation. So I want to get an animated mech pulled in here, and it's going to be modular. So I'm going to want to be able to swap out arms and legs and torso and stuff as well. I'm probably going to need at least 2 different torsos, 2 different legs, 2 different arms, that kind of thing. And then, so I'll do a speed time lapse of that, and then probably another video for like animation and the modular stuff. And then I'll get into some gameplay. Who knows how long it'll take me. I'm just kind of working on this in my spare time. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions or anything, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one.